All right. So, good evening, everybody. This is our July roundtable conversation, and we've got people from all over because Brogan is here and live first thing in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So, we've got Australia is represented, and then the rest of us are all North America, at least today on today's call. So, anyway, I'm so glad you guys are here. What we'll do first is let's just do brief introductions. So, just introduce yourself again because every call has usually a little bit of a different group. So some of you guys might have not met each other yet, especially since most of you, this is your first quarter. Jen and Brittany have both been in past quarters before. But yeah, so let's do quick introductions, just yourself, where you're from, and kind of what you do with your time, and the biggest learning you've had so far this month. Like the biggest aha kind of observation or something like that. Does that sound good? All right. So I'll go first. I'm Catherine. You all know me. So I'm just outside of Toronto. So if any of you ever come to Toronto, or if you live in Toronto, Amber, we have to do a meetup with all the locals soon. I'm planning one for the fall, but so if you ever come to Toronto, let me know. And I have been in the quarterly every round. And I think my biggest thing this month with systems has been having a few of the guest experts come in and talking about it. They each have done things just a little bit different than me and had a slightly different angle, and it's helping me see some different options for how I could organize content that I haven't seen before. So that's just helping me think, okay, how else could I document this stuff or create this stuff? And so that's been really helping me. So that's me. I'm going to mute myself, and it's Brogan's turn.
Let me unmute myself and excuse my morning face and morning voice because I'm not a morning person. So here we go. Hopefully I'll be able to make some kind of sense. So I'm Brogan. This is my first time in the quarterly, but I've known Catherine for like a couple of years now, I think. Basically for almost as long as my business has existed, I've known Catherine. So I am a content strategist and a writer, and I help busy entrepreneurs to hone the art of what I call creating content in their way. So it's under the whole philosophy of content her way. I'm in Perth, Australia, so it's like west coast of the country. So yeah, the sun is still rising because it's winter here, so the light situation may change. And then my biggest learning, Catherine's kind of already shared this in, I think, one of like the Facebook lives, but I had a really big aha over like a simple change I've always struggled with systems because I just don't like the word. And I don't like how rigid they seem. But in the training video, Catherine was talking about how, you can basically call it whatever you want. And so for me, calling systems routines, which I really love, has made a massive difference just in thinking about different things that I do in my business as a routine, which I already have in place for different personal things. So it's something that's really simple, but it's literally made a huge difference in being able to just see business systems as a routine and set them up that way. So yeah, that's been really cool.
And I love that because it's such a simple shift. It's a one-word change, and suddenly your take on it, your desire to work on it, your motivation just like skyrocketed.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Definitely
incredible. Awesome. Okay, let's do Jen, and then Tiana and Brittany. I don't know if you guys, after Jen, one of you might be ready. Pop in the comments and let us know.
Hello. First roundtable, excited. I am from New York. I live here. I am trying to start a nonprofit. And I think one of my major obstacles is the idea of the too many lists. And I think, we've all been there where there's so many actionable items that then you start to do none of them because there are just so many of them and you've overlisted yourself, So I think for me, it's been more, for me, it's been about, and we just talked about it with Catherine this morning, using Trello because I'm very much of a paper person. And I think that also even though it worked before, it's not working right now. So I started with Trello and kind of just actioning my items instead of just like listing them in a non-cohesive way. So that's been my, I guess, aha moment of the day, not even of the month. I just did that today. So thank you for the morning talk. So that's it. Who's ever next?
Go for it, Tiana. We're just doing, so for Haley, who just jumped on, we're just doing our name, where we're from, kind of what we do with our time. So like a quick little business or work thing. And then our biggest kind of aha observation or learning from the month so far.
Okay. Is it working? Okay. I am Tiana. I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I am a photographer. And this month has been really interesting. I consider myself to be like an extremely overly organized person. And so going through this month was really cool to see how I could dig even deeper. So like my lists and my workflows and my Trello boards have gotten even more detailed, which I think is a good thing. I'm not sure. I might feel, that's why I said I felt overwhelmed. I'm like, my lists have lists now, and so I'm just trying to make sure I keep up with everything, that it's not too much. I don't know if that's a thing. Hi. And I have a person in the background.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Oh gosh. And that's it.
Go for it, Haley.
Okay, so I'm sad I missed everyone else's. I'm Haley from Ontario, Canada, and for most of my time, I oversee an arts academy, which I absolutely love. We're in the thick of camp right now, which is so fun. And so systems, I would say this is a challenging month for me because I'm not behind my computer very much. So with systems, I think my biggest aha is that I'm similar to, oh, I'm sorry, what was your name that just went? Just spoke before me.
Tiana.
Yeah, yes, okay. So similar to you, that I feel like I'm a very organized person, but then going through my systems, I'm not as detailed as I thought. And I feel like my stress comes from not actually following my plans. And so I create them, but then it's almost like I feel like I can do it faster on my own. And then it's like I have this realization every time that I have less stress when I follow my systems. So I'm creating them, but I think I need to make them more detailed and also just have something very purposeful to remind me of why I'm using my systems. So that was my big aha, is I know that I have them in place, but being able to use them actually reduces my stress, which is one of the biggest things that I'm struggling with right now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Brittany, I don't know if you're in a place where you can do an introduction. I know you can hear me, but either unmute yourself and go for it, or just type in the chat and let us know that you can't. I don't hear anything. Does anyone hear anything? No. Okay. So we'll just assume, Brittany, that you can't jump on right now, and we'll just keep the conversation going. So let's just talk for a minute about what Haley and kind of Tiana was talking about, and which I know, Brogan, you actually brought up in one of the Facebook Lives, was this aspect of like, how do you actually follow your systems that you have documented all the time? And so my answer is yes, I do. However, what I sometimes do, even if they're super detailed, I always create and I copy my card into my project board for whatever I'm doing, and I work on it. Sometimes I know, okay, these are the 3 things I'm doing today, or I'm just going to work on this for a while. And so I move things forward, and then I go back and check, and I'm like, oh, I did that. Oh, I did that. Oh, I did that. Or I've moved specific things into like a daily task list, and it's like, okay, this is the one thing for this project that I have to get done today. So I'll copy it and like put it into today's list. So even if in the moment while I'm working, I don't have it open and I'm checking it off, I make sure that at least once a day when I'm working on a project, I go through and I update what I've done. So I think it's okay to a point to rely on our memory. The tricky thing is then what we like, sometimes I'll work too long without looking back at what's documented. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I have a board on my project board. I mean, I'm pretty good at it now. It doesn't happen really hardly anymore, but I'll be like, oh, I have a board. I go back to that. And then I'm like, oh shoot, I forgot to do that. And that's really important. And that needed to get done first because this affects this. And now I can't do these things until whatever. And so that's what I find happens when I forget or whatever. The other thing that Brogan was asking about, which we chatted about, I think it was on Facebook Live. I don't remember now, but you were just like, how like much detail should you have? Because everyone needs different amount of detail, right? And sometimes it doesn't all need to be like in a checklist. So have you adjusted anything and how has that been going for you?
Yeah, so I think I've realized that there's certain different routines, as I'm calling them, that need to be more detailed than others. So I think like things like that I don't do particularly often. So like maybe like a live webinar or a live training, preparation for like an in-person training, need to be more detailed just because I don't do them as often. So I'm not going to remember, exactly what the steps that I need to do. But it's actually been really good to have, especially because the stuff we were talking about on that Facebook Live was for me more related to content creation because that's what I do. So for me, I always kind of just found either systems or routines to slow me down because it's so ingrained that I don't really need to look at it. So just having that has been really helpful. So I do actually have my kind of current workflow, actually, because I did a blog post on it. So I actually have it created because I was sharing it with people. So that's like quite detailed in what I go through. But then in terms of what I actually do, either on a weekly basis or on a daily basis, I just jot down, like you suggested, the kind of like bigger items that I put in my bullet journal, which I've actually found to be working really well because I have a love-hate relationship with project management systems. Like I don't like being stuck in them all of the time. And so I found that it's been really helpful to have the kind of like bigger plan, the bigger ticket items, the bigger tasks in the project management system, and then have kind of like the smaller stuff in my bullet journal. And so, yeah, that's been working pretty well so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because once you have a system memorized or it's what you do, like,
yeah.
I'm finding now that I'm into like, this was month 7 for me in a row of doing the quarterly content. So like I'm getting faster and I'm getting more familiar with what I do. Like, okay, I need to set everything up for the month. I know I have a roundtable call and a guest expert call and the monthly planning party, and I need to set up my Zoom calls and I just batch everything and I can do it a lot quicker. And then I just go back and make sure, did I miss any calls? Did I miss any steps? Yes. Okay. I said I wanted 2 emails for that. Perfect. They're done. Right. But I use it honestly. Part of the reason why I think I still use my systems like, and my documentation stuff so much is baby brain. Not gonna lie. My brain has actually like, it has less capacity for memory and my memory is worse than before I was born. Like and so I don't feel comfortable relying on my brain as much as I used to. 'Cause I'm like, oh, it's been wrong so many times. So that's one reason why I do it and why I keep using it. So.
Can I ask a question? Do you guys use like a planning system like Trello or Asana or whatever, and then have like an actual planner or a note or like a bullet journal? Do you guys use both for personal and professional?
Yeah, I do. I've only just recently gone back to mixing the two because so I used to just use paper planners. I've been very into paper planners since school, always buying printed journals. And then actually after I met Catherine, I got into the digital, all of the kind of digital project management systems, which was very exciting. I tried to go 100% digital that just doesn't work for me.
Okay.
I need to
I'm
actually
finding it
physically write
difficult.
things
Okay.
down. Yeah, so I'm the same in that way. So yeah, like I was saying, what I've been trying to do over the past couple of weeks is I put like the bigger plan and the bigger, like say like the milestones and the kind of bigger tasks in to a project management system. And then anything that's kind of like stuff that I would do over a week or over a day, so like a smaller task, that I put into the bullet journal. So then basically on a day-to-day basis, I'm just looking at my bullet journal, and then I go back a couple of times a week, maybe even just like once a week, I go back to my project management system and just make sure that all the big ticket stuff is done, and then I'm still on track.
Okay.
It's definitely possible to mix the two of them. And actually, I linked to an article. It's scheduled to come out in the Facebook group in the next week or so. But since this topic came up, I just thought I'd grab it for you guys. And Sarah from Love and Spreadsheets, she talks about how to combine analog and digital. So it's just another perspective that might be really helpful for you, Jen. So when I first was using Trello, I still used like my Moleskine, and I basically did the same thing. All my long-term stuff was in there, and then my daily checklist was in my hard copy. But I just find that what I've found in the last year and a half is that I'm not always at my desk, or I don't always have that journal with me, but I always have my phone, and Trello is on my phone. So I could look at my daily list, and I actually put personal stuff on it too. So I have and I could just pull it up on my phone. But I have a calendar is the first thing on my daily list, and I'll show you how it shows up on here. But where is it? Okay. So like today, for instance, I start with a calendar. So like I put all of my appointments with times. So I had a 9 a.m. call, a 10 a.m. call, 7:30 roundtable. That was all of my time commitments. But if I had a doctor's appointment for M or whatever, I have all of that. So I just like it because if I'm out, if I'm somewhere and I look and I can see what I need to do. So because I didn't always have my hard copy book wherever I was or was working, or I was upstairs a lot more as a mom, I was just like, I couldn't do it. But actually what I did do more is I had a pad of paper that had every day. So what I've done since Em was born, basically it lasted me 10 months. And it was like 1 week was on each sheet, and I would put all my major tasks and I would handwrite them out. And so on like the Monday morning or the Sunday night, I would plan out my week, put all my appointments in, so that then I didn't even have to look at my phone. I could literally just be like, what do I need to be doing right now? Because some days, you're just so exhausted, you can't figure it out. And so I definitely use a combination too. Does anyone else who's on the call use a combination?
I tried. It did not work for me. So I have to say that I was full analog, loved my planner. And before I got married, everything was just color coded, and I wrote everything down and kept it with me all the time. But I also worked a desk job where I find now once I'm married, so things that involve both of us, having things written down does not help my husband. So that's what I found. I just moved everything to digital. So that way, like Catherine said, I have my phone with me all the time. So I feel like I can update things. I mentioned on, I think it was yesterday on the Facebook page that like for my systems, if there's something, a project I'm doing this year and I need to update it, I can update it on my phone as I'm walking somewhere, where instead of trying to make a mental note to change it later. But I think I've wanted to do the daily. I'm showing you right now. This right here is this beautiful calendar. Empty. 2018.
It's so pretty.
There's nothing in it.
You haven't used it at all? You bought it?
It sits on my desk. So I was trying this year and looking at it and trying to figure out the best way. But I just I think the starting of January fell down. That's it. So I did try, but I found that full digital works for me.
Yeah. Well, and read Sarah's article, because you might find that gives you a different idea of how you could do it. Right. Even if it sits on your desk at work.
Right.
Right. And it could just be your work thing. and it not be personal, or it could stay at home and it could be personal and you use it more for like having a visual calendar or something hard copy, or you use it more for your planning. It could be your planning party calendar.
Yeah, I think I just having things in different places I find is stressful, which so yeah,
and this is why we're all different, right? Like this is the whole point. We get to learn from each other and figure out what works for us, and there is no right answer at all. Yeah, so good.
Sharing that, I'll definitely be reading that article.
Yeah, do it. Okay, so what I would love to know from anyone that's on, either in the chat or live on video, some of the kind of questions that I threw out were, what systems or routines are you creating? Like, what areas of your life and business are you actually working on stuff? And how did you decide what you were going to work on first? Like, what were some of the factors for you? Just because I think it's different for all of us. So I think that that's a really unique conversation to have. And then also maybe some challenges that we're having and some things that are working really well for us. So any of that, anything about this month, go. The floor is turned over. So if you guys are only on chat, feel free to jump in the chat comments and do that, and I'll make sure to read them out. Any thoughts?
Okay, I might go then. And now I've promptly forgotten like all of your questions. Morning brain. Okay. Oh yeah, prioritizing them and deciding which ones to do. Okay, so yeah, like I said, like thinking about systems as routines has definitely helped, but I've still been procrastinating a little bit. So what I decided to do was I started with kind of the systems that I kind of already semi had set up. So like I said, like I had a writing system, like blog writing system set up because I did a blog post on it. So I've just been kind of reviewing what I've already got in place and starting there, and then starting to move stuff over so that it's all in one spot in the project management system. And then I kind of decided to start there because I felt like, oh, okay, well, like if I can get myself moving, then those ones will be done. And then I can move on into like the kind of more important ones, which I think for me are probably, I'm still like kind of deciding how to group everything together, but I think it's going to be definitely something more like sales or like outreach oriented, just because I find if I don't have that set up as a system, I just ignore it and I don't do it or I just do it really like haphazardly. So yeah, that's definitely going to be like next on the list. So I'm kind of like easing myself into it and then doing the kind of hardest one first.
I love that. That's a great way to approach it. And I was just, have you guys heard of Ashley Gartland? Any of you? So she just did a training called Simplified Marketing. Oh yeah, Tiana, you know her. She's your biz coach. Okay, sweet. So let me be the first person to tell you guys that I'm hosting an Insta Summit in August next month. And so Ashley is actually going to be doing her simplified marketing plan presentation at the Insta Summit. And what I love about it is it's just so simple. She sets it up. It's like, just pick your actions that you're going to do every week or every day, every week, every month, every quarter, every year. What are like the one or two things you're going to do each of those time frames, and just set it up so it's really simple to do it. And so I loved her approach and just how simple it was. And so especially for people that don't want to do it all, and like Brogan, you always talk about with content, like just do what's most important to you. And so, you know, she was like, maybe it is every month you pitch 2 podcasts and that's it. That's all the expectations. But hey, if you pitch a third one because it's right there and you're on a roll, awesome. Right. But just like keeping it really, really structured every day, maybe doing 15 minutes of engagement, or every week, you know, what are the things? And so I like that way. I like how she just simplifies everything down. Anyway, she and I get along great because everything we talk about is about simplification and being really intentional. And so it's a lot of fun. So, and I saw you in the Facebook group, Tiana, and forgot to mention something. So yeah, I love that. So any thoughts? This is, again, I'll just mention what systems we're focusing on, how we kind of decided what to create, and any challenges or things that are working really well for us. So anything in that spectrum, anyone can go for it. Brogan just shared. So the mic is open. And I'm muting myself. So one of you's got to start talking. No one's taking me up on it. Can I repeat the questions? For sure, Tiana. Honestly, you can talk about anything that has to do with systems, any question you have, any challenge you're experiencing, something that worked awesome for you. The kind of questions that I'd put out in the email were just like, what systems are you working on, or what area of your business are you focusing on systematizing? Maybe how you decided what to focus on first, or any challenges. So those are kind of like guiding questions, but it can be anything.
So I've been keeping my video off because now that my daughter knows that you guys are real, she like just wants to talk to you. I think like this has been really great. Like I said, I'm really organized and I'm all digital, like completely digital because my phone's everywhere. But I feel like I have too many tools now. Not too many systems, but too many tools. Like I feel like I'm spread across, like I've got Trello, I've got Wunderlist, I've got Google Keep, Google Docs. Like it's just a lot. And so I think right now, because I've watched Brittany's replay like 2 or 3 times now. And I think I need to simplify, but all of the tools do something different. So I don't know that I truly can.
So let's just brainstorm now for a minute. What do you love about Wunderlist?
So I love that they give you like just really quick reminders. Like it's like my to-do list basically. And I tried because, she was talking about the automations and stuff. I was like, oh, I could do those in Trello, but setting up Butler to get those to because like in Wunderlist, you can make something repeat itself. So I have a repeat that tells me, okay, today we're going to schedule all of our Instagram posts for the month. But like for Butler to set that up, I was like, this is way more complicated than Wunderlist. So sorry. Yeah, so I don't think there's like a one-stop shop, I feel like.
What is Google Keep?
So Google Keep is like a notebook. It's kind of like Evernote.
I know what Google Keep is, and I've used it before. What is the benefit for you?
So like I use that for, like I have lists of hashtags that I use for my posts. So I use that to like keep, like it's just quick stuff that I can access. Like, so I have a chat box on my website. So I have like quick responses in there that I can just go copy and paste. Like it's just my quick, so I'm not scrolling through Trello. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because you probably could, I'm just thinking for Google Keep, you open it, you find your tab, you open Trello, you open, you click on your board, and then your list. It's like one more click.
Yeah.
But it's not too bad. Like that one, you probably could move to Trello without it being too much of a difference. Like if you have a bank, right? Like what Brittany was talking about with having a bank of stuff. And then at least you'd have one less tool that you're using. But they all serve different purposes. And if they work for you and it's working, then just roll with it. Rock it.
Okay. I think I have
if it's really working and it's efficient, then rock it. Don't feel guilty about it. It's more like helping us think about, especially, has anyone done the tools audit? Brogan, I know that you've done it before, Mariah's tool audit. The point of that was really to help us think about like, especially things we're paying for and like all of the, like, do we have too many things that overlap? But it's like, if you've got specific uses for specific things and it's working, then don't fix what's not broke. Like if it really is working, I don't think you need to mess with it.
Yeah, that's what Mariah talks about in that tools audit too. Like she says, like if it might look like you have a lot, but if you have a clearly defined reason for why you use each particular tool, And like Catherine said, if it's working, then that's just what your like system looks like. Some people prefer having it all in one place. Some people, it makes more sense to have it in kind of a couple of different places. Other people get really stressed out by having it in a lot of different places. But yeah, it just kind of depends on what works.
Yeah. So I say rock it, but what I say is get really clear about it. When you have somewhere where you list all the tools that you use and what you use them for, and have that in your bank of systems, so that if you were to bring someone new on your team, they could be like, oh, these are all the tools that Tiana uses. Oh, this is what she used them for. Perfect. And like they understand. So it would be clear to someone new. So I think if you just took the time to like do that and you're like, yeah, I'm really clear. And you realize maybe you're using Wunderlist for like a couple other things and you're like, oh, maybe I should move those like one or two things into Trello, but I'm still going to use it for my reoccurring stuff because it's easy to do like that. So that could be one way of like just making that tiny little shift.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think I just needed that permission. Oh, there she is. Sit down, baby. Yeah, I think I just needed that permission because I felt like I was making it more complicated, but they really are for different things, and just some of them work better in those different areas.
Yep. Then rock it. Do it. Do it. It's so good. Yeah. So here's one of the things that I have to systematize and write down everything for is anything that's tech related. Because I am not naturally a tech person. So for like recording things, webinar replays, even like I think in the Trello training that I did for you guys, I showed you examples of like how I even have like ConvertKit formatting, like little things with like a long dash. I always forget how to do a long dash in ConvertKit. So sometimes I remember, and then sometimes like, I just can't remember. So I just go to my system and I look it up because I'm like, that's faster than asking my husband. Right. And so he's always laughs at me, like when I document like how to record and I say, open this program, click this button, because I forget. If it has to do with technology, it is in one ear and out the other. So I have to be like so clear with myself and very, very detailed. But that's why I can edit all my own videos and do that. If I was not that detailed and didn't record everything, I couldn't do it. There's no way. Because I just don't retain technical knowledge at all. Like zip. Like the fact that the quarterly is all virtual and you guys receive everything virtually, like this is a big deal. Oh dear. Anyway.
I was just thinking that. You're a superstar. Yeah, that's awesome.
Sometimes it really stresses me out.
I think that's really encouraging, just knowing that something that you feel that is not your niche, but you've gone forward and you're making this happen, even though there's something that is your niche, but you need another piece and you're willing to make it work. So I find that really inspiring.
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like, if it's something that you need to do, just figure out a way to make it work for you. And for me, with technology, it means writing down every single step, taking screenshots. Like with YouTube, with my settings, I have for a basic video for the quarterly, like I have written down basic, make sure I name it like this, click the playlist that it goes to, select that it's unlisted, and then go to advanced. And I don't need it because I do it like enough times. Like I'm doing it 4 or 5 times a month that it's second nature now. But for a while, I literally would have my list in one window and YouTube in the other window. Okay, what do I need to click? This. Okay, what do I need to click? This, and do it. Like,
You can actually semi-automate that in YouTube too, just by the way.
how?
If you go into your creator studio, which I can't remember what it used to be called, but it used to be like, the kind of back end where you can do stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to look it up so I can give you the exact steps, but you can go in there and you can actually set up like your upload defaults. So you can add like a whole bunch of stuff into like, if you have like the same kind of things that you always write in the description box, you can just like actually have that all copied out, written down. You can set up like if when you upload a video, it should be like unlisted, all that kind of stuff. But you can set that up and kind of semi-automate it too.
That's interesting. If I was doing more actual content for Modern Planner, I would set it up for my YouTube videos because that would save me even more time. But since I don't, and right now it's literally just the quarterly replays is the main thing that I do. At least that it might save me 5 minutes of video, which 4 times a month, it's 20 minutes. You know,
that adds up. That's like a walk in the sun.
It is. It's like a walk every month from automating YouTube. See, this is why we have these conversations. Oh dear, so funny. Does anyone else have any thoughts? I can't tell, Brittany, if you're able to jump in or not. I'm going to assume not because you haven't jumped in yet. Haley, what are you creating systems-wise?
I have to say I'm recreating. I moved into a job that had systems in place, which was really great, but then finding that some things were out of date and needed to be adjusted. And I think I heavily relied on them. And I'm stuck between this scratch and create new or keep what we have and adjust. So what I'm working on right now is personally, I'm adjusting my daily, which is my wheels are turning because I think I've switched what I was planning to do because I'm going to look into for my daily going to hard copy because now so many of you are talking about Trello being your big picture things. And I think that's why I have trouble going into it every single day to follow because I see it as big picture. So that's something that I think I'm going to be working on is readjusting that for the rest of the month and seeing how that goes. But in general, the ones that I've been making a list about of what I would like to create systems for or adjust systems for is the onboarding process, which I have just been following. We have a nonprofit organization inside a bigger organization. So I've been following the bigger organization's onboarding and we specialize in the arts, so it's different. So that's one of my big ones, especially moving into the fall, is just making sure that the onboarding process serves our organization, not just the large organization. So I'm going to be tweaking that. Yeah, and I don't have my list with me because I ran from camp and just sat down. So I'm trying to think of everything that I had because I wrote it down in my notebook. But those are my 2 big ones that I'll be focusing on.
Yeah, and those are great. And I think one of the ways that you figure out what your priority needs to be is based upon like what's coming up the soonest, right? Like it's not necessarily always frequency. It's like what is coming up that you need to use like tomorrow. So you should have it updated, right? Like I usually, whenever I'm creating something new, like the Insta Summit, for instance, I didn't create a system for it. Actually, I should re-clarify. I copied my webinar system. So this is an example of like using a system and then, so I copied it because at least it has pre-webinar stuff, marketing stuff. Like there's a bunch of things that are going to be sort of similar. None of the recording, but I just deleted that checklist, right? Like I just delete the parts I don't need. So then I updated it, deleted, and then I created actually underneath all the tasks, I did a week by week. So it's like, okay, these are all the things I need to do, but now this is a big project that I have to like stay on top of because it's so deadline specific. And so I broke down my big tasks and I was like, create images. Well, there's more notes about images in the image section, but at least like I know that that has to happen this week. And like, so it's broken down week by week. But I'm a big believer in like use something that's sort of close and copy it and then delete and go through and add stuff, because rather than like starting over and having to think of everything all over again, like that, no one's got time for that. No one's got time to do that. Just use something that you have that's similar and then readjust it. So yeah. That's good. And I do think you should try using Trello for every day. The one thing I'd recommend though is that you check it when you're planning. Like if you're going to be using only that, then make sure you at least schedule once a day. I only say that because I know like how busy and what things are like where you work. I would make sure at least once a day you check in on Trello. And you're like, okay, so this is going good. Did I miss anything? Am I going, or at least like a few times a week, have like specific times where you reevaluate where things that have come up, because you might have things that come up during the week. Where are you going to put those? Well, if they're for next week, you want to jump into Trello and like add it in there, or, you know, like you'll have to figure that out, what you do, but make sure you give yourself some consistency.
Yeah, I think it's seasons as well, because it was working for me so well, because there are things that I do every Monday, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, and checking those off and then adding appointments similar to what you showed us at the beginning, with having the times and having it all scheduled. And I just think it's because when I go into a season where it's really busy and I'm not checking as much as I do, it's just sometimes challenging to get back to that. So it was working. So like you're saying, it's maybe it's just me getting back into that habit of checking in and it being my first thing in the day to make sure that everything's scheduled in my Trello board for that day. And then
or the last thing of every day.
Or the last thing.
That's even better. Because if you end your day by looking, then all you have to do is sit down and start.
Yeah, I have to say, doing a weekly review has shown me when I do my weekly review on a Friday, and then of course I'll remember this. No, I do it on the Friday, and then on Monday, I'm already steps ahead. So it's same for day to day.
Yeah, it is for sure. For those of you watching the replay or joining us live that don't know what the weekly review is, that was our January theme. So Haley's been rolling right through the whole year. And so our January theme was the weekly review. So how can we use something as simple as a weekly review in a Google Forms or something like this that has a reoccurring appointment that has questions for us to make sure we're in line with our priorities, that we're doing the things that we want to do, that we're staying on top of stuff, that we've planned future things. And so that's what the whole month was about, was creating that review and then putting it into process. So I love that you brought that up, because it's 6 months later. I still do mine every Friday at 2 p.m. Slack reminds me and says, Slack bot is like, you wanted me to remind you to do your weekly review. And I'm like, thanks, Slack bot. I need to change it though, because I do it on Thursdays now because I don't work on Fridays. So anyway, awesome. Any other thoughts from anybody about systems?
I just wanted to I can't remember whose question you were in reference to, but you were saying something about how it was about the simplified marketing and how like you set expectations for yourself. I think that's really interesting too, especially for those of us who are like either perfectionists or tend to like have 50 million things on the go at once. I think that that's a really cool way to look at it as well, is like setting up expectations for yourself, where it's like, this is what I've set as, this is what needs to happen. Anything else is like just extra.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, it's just another simple reframe. I'm really liking the simple reframes these days. But I just thought that was kind of a cool way to look at it as well, because it's kind of easy. I know for me, like when I'm thinking about systems or routines, is that like, oh, it has to be quite, in depth and detailed and complex. And that's not necessarily the case. It's just setting up like expectations for yourself of like, this is how I'm going to roll. Like, this is how I get stuff done, and how like the expectations that I set for myself. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the really valuable things about seeing how different people do things and use, even though it's Trello, even if you don't use Trello, you're still seeing different ways to use a task management system. You know what I mean? Like regardless of what tool you use, it was like, oh yeah, like that's a great way to do it. So I'm actually looking at some of my boards that I use all the time, not the ones that I shared with you guys, like, cause that one has lots of systems on it and it's more like a systems board. But some of my ones, like trying to figure out, like, I love how my project one works, but there's a few others that just aren't working for me. And so I just need to spend some time, like sitting in it and just like clean it out. Yeah, and reorganize some stuff because I think that it could work better for me. And like with expectations, right? Like how do I track expectations and make it clear? You know, so one of the things that I have, for instance, that helps me with the quarterly a lot is I have a content card that goes on my project board. And so right now I'm working through July content. And so I start with my training video and my worksheet. And then I have like my roundtable call and the guest expert call and the monthly planning party. And I have all the things that I do for each of those, like pretty broad because I'm in it all the time. And then I just like go through that. And so it's like, I can see just by looking at that card, like, let me just pull it up because I'm pretty sure it's open right now. Oh, it's not. But I can see just by looking at it, oh, okay, like I am going to pull it up so I can give you, okay, so I've done 48 of 62 things for July. So it's really easy for me to go, okay, I'm doing pretty good. And then I'll just open it every couple of days and be like, is there anything that I need to work on? And it's like, oh, well, this is like, I put all my Facebook lives in there. So at the beginning of the month, I update it with every Monday and every Thursday with the dates so that I can be adding notes about the things I'm going to talk about. So like my notes for each thing is in that whole month, right? So it's like everything. So now that the guest expert training, see, here's an example. I didn't check off add to the premium content library. Send out replay with link to the library. Done. See, now I just checked off 2 more things, guys. But I had it in as my daily to do yesterday after the call, right? So this is an example of how I don't always check things off. But anyway, so like after this, I'm going to add this replay to the content library. By the way, has anyone checked that out? No?
Yeah, I did. I had where the replays and stuff are.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about? Yeah, I did. I had a quick
Me too.
yesterday.
You're welcome. So that's new this quarter. That's the first time I've done that. I just realized, like, you know what? I'll still send out one replay email, but I'm always going to give you just the link to the library now. And I think it'll be, oh, Tiana loves the replay section. Good. And then that way, so it'll be July. And then what I'll do is when I add August will go at the top of the page. So then I'll build it out on top so you don't have to like scroll through because, well, that would be annoying. So yeah, so I'm hoping that that's really going to help you guys. And then if people miss stuff, you just go to one spot. You don't have to figure out which email it was in and what link and whatever. So it's my like first step. I'm moving to more of like a course structure for 2019, where it will all be hosted. So this is kind of like my making sure you guys like that setup before I put in the work. And so far the results are great. And it just went out yesterday. So good to know. Okay. Any other thoughts, Tiana, Jen, before we wrap things up?
I'm actually good. I'm actually going to start reading the material that you just sent, and I think I'm gonna go with maybe Brogan's suggestion of stop trying to digitize everything when I'm so comfortable with paper and kind of like go with the bigger scope. So I'm excited. I appreciate that. Thank you, Brogan.
Nice.
I'm writing as we speak. Thank you, guys.
That's awesome. I'm glad it worked and that you got a great idea. So that's really good. Any closing thoughts, Tiana? She also might be with her daughter. So you're good. Okay. Well, guys, thanks for joining in and having the conversation. Oh, don't worry about it. It's called life, and we get that here in the Modern Planner community because life happens. She is so adorable. That hair, though, I was just like, ah! Okay, the girls are gushing. They're not like saying anything, but everyone's nodding and smiling in agreement. We think she's adorable. All right. Well, be sure to, there's going to be more stuff coming up in the Facebook group. There's more articles coming up, more reminders. Just a quick note, next Thursday's Facebook Live, we have another guest expert joining me. Her name is Morgan, and she's talking about systems for bookkeeping and accounting. Yes. Yes. So if you're just definitely going to want to watch that. So that's happening in the Facebook group. So it won't be like part of the replay stuff. You can watch that later. But that's at the normal time, the Thursday, like the 10 a.m. time. So that's going to be really great. So anyway, thanks guys. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week.